There's nothing like cracking that cellophane and pulling that record out. It just smells great.
Welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Non-stop hardcore energy.
I love the show, guys. You're awesome.
Unlike any other.
With your host, John the Bod, a.k.a. the Bodfather.
Man, this stuff rocks.
This is Austin Stambaugh, and you're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour with your host, John the Bod Marshall.
The views and opinions of the guests do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of BODS Mayhem Hour, its staff, affiliates, or sponsors. Parental discretion is advised. Welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Hey everybody, welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour. I am your host, John the Bod, aka the Bodfather, and as always, I'm bringing you guys and gals awesome interviews. Today, it's an honor and a huge privilege to welcome Nashville singer-songwriter Austin Stambaugh, and he has released his new album entitled Midwest Supernatural via Anti-Corporate Music. And when I listen to this, I hear a lot of Gary Stewart, and I hear a lot of Dwight Yokam. Okay, this is some cool stuff I like. I got to stream this last night on Bandcamp. Final Delivery is awesome, and Ain't Through Being Yet, man, is just a kick-ass song. So this is pretty cool. So welcome to the podcast, and how you doing, Austin?
I'm doing very, very well, and I'm very happy to be here.
How excited are you to finally have this album, Midwest Supernatural, out and be done with it and just move right along?
I am very excited about it. The whole thing was a big leap of faith for me, I guess, and I wanted to move quickly through it. So if anything, it has encouraged me to realize that recording is a process, and that's what everyone always says. But I'm just excited to have it done, and I'm also excited to see what it turned out like. Like I went in with like 16 songs, and then I chose 10 songs, and one of them was made up in the studio, like the last track. So a lot of songs that I spent 2 years trying to write didn't even make the record, and it's just one of them things that happens as you go along in the process. And I don't know, I'm just happy, and I'm so inspired and encouraged by the whole process. I think I worked with a great bunch of guys. Anti-Corporate Records out in Nashville. I couldn't ask for a better crop of folks. So I'm just excited about it.
Did it turn out exactly the way you wanted it to, though, Austin?
It turned out exactly the way I wanted it to, in the way that I have no regrets on it. I just went in and I tracked the whole thing live. Like all my vocals are live, and everything's in my control, but it was out of my control as far as I had a bunch of other brains on the record. Like I had the bass player's brain, and he was talking with the drummer during all the takes, and then they were able to have this chemistry that I could have never seen, So it turned out the way that I wanted it to, in the fact that it turned out how I didn't plan it to, because it turned out better than I planned.
How's the fans' feedback on the release of this new album so far? What's the feedback that you've been seeing?
Well, the feedback, a lot of people have a lot of good things to say about it. I think it's because of the nature of its recording. It's very, very raw and in the groove, and just very unbound feeling, and a lot of people need that. I feel like a lot of music today is real over the top, overdubbed, and everybody wants to get their everything all perfect and shimmery, and the record is very anti-overdub. So even though we did overdub the entire fiddle, but there's something real about it that people get, and also people understand what I was doing with a lot of the narrations in the story, in the songs, and I think it's just something that uniquely represents me. So people like it if they're my friend, or if they know me, and if they don't know me, they might listen to the record in 10 years or something. I don't know.
But you're right, though, man. There's so many bands out there and so many songs. It sounds like they have to get all this instruments in there and all these sounds, and it's like, no, you don't. Just don't. Just do your thing and be done with it and move on to the next song.
Right.
Midwest Supernatural is a dream document of personal wisdom and narrations from your Northeast Ohio upbringings. Was it crucial to sing about this on this album, possibly?
Yeah, it was crucial to me I've always been one that has strived for honesty. Like I felt like I always kind of subscribed to the model of the tortured artist, of the tortured songwriter. Like you got to live a hard life to be who you are. But I don't know. The older I get and the more I kind of go around, I realize that you really got to take care of yourself and you got to have faith for humanity, and to put good things in the world. So it was important to me to sing about real life people that I knew in this record. So when it says in the write up that I'm telling about my Northeast Ohio upbringings, that song "Final Delivery" is a song about my cousin who died in a truck wreck. He had a heart attack while he was driving, and he was able to shoulder the truck in the ditch, before he went into all the oncoming cars. And then, like after he died, like his ex-wife like posted on Facebook like all these new fancy diamond rings that she got, and like because he never wrote her out of his will, even though he had been dating the same woman for a decade. They just never got married, and he never changed his stuff. So I wanted to immortalize him. His name was Tommy Stambaugh, and I changed the name to John in the song because that would just allow me more of a liberty to rhyme words that were part of the song. And so like with this record, like I got the opportunity to record a record, and Benjamin Todd from Lost Dog Street Band co-produced it and fronted like the whole front end of the record. And I got all my friends to play on it, and living in Nashville, it was easy to have good people on it that I knew because I've just been working in bars ever since I moved to Nashville. But bars where the musicians would play at. It's the Roberts Western World House Band, I guess, and it's a very country album. But anyway, it was important to me to include the Midwest supernatural stories because Tommy had been a fan of my music for so long, even when I was in high school playing like rock and all this stuff, and he was always with me. So it's like even though he's not here, it's like he still goes along with me because now I've put his life story into a song. And
Right.
that's what I think folk music and storytelling and timeless art is all about. It's about trying to make tangible the things that you can't hold on to anymore. That's just one example of the songs that I did. And there's something very important to me to do that because it's like I had to look at the own hair on my chest, and I had to put something worthwhile that was for me to bring along with me forever. And if you write down the reality of the story, people can learn something from it. And it's not really happy, but it's the reality, and that's what we should be doing with music more. We should be telling real life stories. So
And you're exactly right, my friend, because when you listen to the old school ways of country music, there was heart and soul storytelling. And I mean, nowadays it's just eh. It's like
yeah.
I lost my iPhone, or my truck got scratched. I mean, you don't hear like those gut wrenching old country classics like we used to. And I want to give kudos to you because how important was it to stay true to the vintage country roots of the 60s and 70s, or did it just fall into place?
Well, I've always had a vision for aesthetics in my head. I always loved the sound of a pedal steel guitar. So whenever I started recording my own solo records a few years ago back now, even though this is like the first record I made that's on like Anticorp, and everything else has just been home releases.
Mhm.
But it was important to me to use the country instrumentation. It's like I'm using the same instruments. It's just a fiddle and a pedal steel guitar and a Martin D35 flat top, but I'm trying to take the sounds into more of like a less cookie cutter way. I'm trying to include like a lot of 6/8 time signatures. I'm trying to get experimental with it and kind of have a fresh take on the same instrumentation. I think that's really cool. And the ballads of the record, where it's just guitar and dobro and fiddle, are kind of just like bluegrass. It's It's just basic, raw, like just strings and guts. That's it. That's the whole thing, and that's what I wanted to do for this record, and I was really happy with how it all turned out.
So what led you to go the country route? Because I know you said you mentioned that you played some rock and roll back in the day, but what led you to go, I want to do country instead of rock?
For me was I guess as I kind of grew up, I was an old was basically somebody gave me a copy of Bob Dylan's Blonde on Blonde when I was 15,
Mhm.
and that really blew my mind, and that got me into Woody Guthrie, and then I kind of traced it all back to like Jimmy Rogers, to Ernest Tubb, to the Carter family. And also I was into, I mean, I wouldn't say like I've ever been like really into metal, but I got really into punk, but I wasn't like one that had like the jacket or anything. Like I only know like Damaged 2 by Black Flag. Like it's the only Black Flag album that I know. But
Yeah.
I just realized that like what I was trying to feed in myself during those years where I was trying to like crank up my Orange Tiny Terror like as heavy as I could get it sounding, with the still good tune. I just realized that like what I was really looking for was like an authentic sense of sound when you have nothing, like when you just have you and your guitar. That was more punk to me, or more crucial, or more visceral to me. And the way that I was raised as well, I was raised in church from a real early age, and I grew up listening to all the old Baptist hymns where it was just a piano and an organ. And like I remember going to a family reunion once, and I brought my Ibanez RG over with my little crate amp, and my grandpa like looked at it and he's like, "What's that?" I'm like, "It's an Ibanez," and he said, "I never heard of that before," and he only knew like Gibson and Martin guitars.
Yeah.
And so as I've grown up and gotten older, I've gotten back to the roots because I feel like that's where I'm from, so it's like I have to make music in the same kind of style, or timeless style. I think all that stuff's timeless. I'm really into timeless things. I try to aim for that. So country
Yeah.
music was great for me because it's just simplified plain speak. It's plain spoken English, and I love plain spoken English. So
I want to say this right now, and please, folks, forgive me. I forgot I forgot to mention this earlier, but Austin I think, is my second country artist that's been on this podcast, and I've been doing this for years, 13 years, and you guys know that. But to have a country artist to come on my podcast, they've got to stand out. And I'm telling you right now, I'm very impressed with this young man. And like I said, his throwback voice. If you just shut your mouth and just close your eyes and just open your ears and just listen, you'll hear, like I said, Dwight Yokam. You'll hear the old Gary Stewart pouring out of his throat. Man, it's good what you're doing, man. Honestly, coming from a metal punk guy here who strictly loves that shit, and then to hear you come in, it's just like, whoa, that's a breath of fresh air. Honestly,
thank you. Thank you very much.
do you
Yeah.
feel this new album had to come out swinging for you?
Yeah. I mean, looking back after it's already happened, that it kind of had to do that. But also, I'm gonna be making music for my whole life. It's just something that I've done when nobody was helping me, when I was self-releasing, and it was something that I'll do for now. And I have plans to record a couple more records with Anticorp, and I've really became really close friends, and I'm really very grateful to have people around me that are kind of into the vision that I'm doing. And it just took going out and doing it on your own for so long, and then people finally get into what you're into, and there's always more gems to be mined. I'm very excited for the next record, and I'm gonna get off into some experimental stuff too.
Uh-oh.
So
There we go.
it'll
Branching out, son.
it'll stay
Branching out.
cool.
All right, so
Yeah.
let's talk about this a little bit though. You mentioned the growth from doing it on your own to now with Anticorp. What have you taken away from that? And plus, what's that musical growth that you've seen from yourself going the single route, just you alone, to now doing it this way?
Mhm. It's the thing that I really realized was like, so when you're your own independent artist and you're around people that are successful and they know you and they're your friend. Like I've known Benjamin Todd for like 5 years, but he's from Lost Dog Street Band and he's the one that co-produced the record. But it's like, and I've been friends with all these people for so long, and I've just been doing my own thing and stuck in my own camp, which is good because that's what it takes for people to get to know you and to see, what you're able to keep doing on your own. But basically, you have to do everything by yourself. That's what I've learned. And Dan Emery over at Anticorp, he does everything by himself. He is a DIY artist that runs a DIY label. And me working with them is really perfect because I've been a DIY artist running my own DIY label called Primitive American up in Cleveland, Ohio, where I used to live. And so it's like I'm still making my own DIY album. It's just now Dan is releasing it on his label. So it's like nothing's changed. It's just kind of, like the quality of the recordings has changed because now I have access to studio and, I got to figure out ways to, pay for it all. But it's very much still DIY, and uh, that's why I think it fits on Anticorp because they do things really against the grain. And so that's what I learned from the whole process. It's like coming here to Nashville and coming somewhere, I always thought growing up that somebody was gonna do it for me or something. And you realize that it's really just all up to you doing everything by yourself. And that's the true way. So whenever I made this record, I got all the greatest people I could. I tried to do it on a shoestring budget and do it all live so that it would have the feeling. That way I wouldn't have to pay $1 million for it or whatever. And then I also didn't have time to really regret or look back on anything because I knew when I was in the studio that I did my very best. And if you hear my voice, you might hear a little off note, but I think all the feeling is there, which is what I was really wanting to do. So that's what I learned with working with a real label was just how much of you have to do it by yourself still.
Yeah, oh, for sure. What's the nucleus that keeps you moving right along and creating your music, Austin? What's that drive?
I love that question. The nucleus is I have always, my whole life, I've always kind of had visions or ideas or things in my brain that I felt like I needed to put forth. Like for some reason, like I'll just be driving somewhere and then I'll have something come into my head that I feel like if I don't do anything with it, that I would be null and void to my purpose on earth. I feel like I just got that perfect amount of like growing up with music all around me, but also like I'm an older brother. So I have to kind of look out for like my little brother. So it's like I always kind of have to like have an advice or I have to see through things a little bit. And that put me in a weird place to where I just have a lot of gut feelings and I have to make something with my talents and I have to put it forth in the world. I heard I know there are a million other people that feel the same way as me too, and you might as well. It's just like you have to do something no matter what.
Yeah.
But Chris Christopherson said one time because he was quoting William Blake when I heard him do this. This is like a paraphrased quote, but he said, "The soul that feels the need to express something, and if it buries its talent in the earth, does nothing with it, then it enters eternity feeling shame and regret." And I feel that. Like I feel like if I don't do anything, then I will have known that I could have been effective and I didn't. And that's what I don't want because I will enter eternity feeling shame and regret. So, time is fleeting and there's no saying how long we're going to be here, but it's like I'm going to at least do my best to discipline myself to not go crazy. Like if I didn't do music, I'd go crazy. I'd probably turn into some habitual like crazy person, you know. But it's like if I get up every day and I drink water and I try to be diligent with the stories I'm trying to tell, then that is something that keeps me going. That's the nucleus. The nucleus is just like this kind of weird well that sometimes is dry. Like this record I just did, like I have more songs, but I'm excited for what the well will fill up, you know, eventually. And
Yeah.
because I know that it will always come back, and that's the way it is, you know. So
And then you're right. This is the reason why I do my podcast, so that way hopefully somebody can gravitate to a band and like them, and
mhm.
maybe one of their songs could be their anthem, and maybe a band could be like, make them not feel like they're an outcast, make them feel like they belong, make them just gravitate to somebody that could save their life one day. That's my goal here.
Absolutely, that's what it's all about. And you know, if on the CD itself, on the record, I put on the bottom, I said, my hope for this record is that it will inspire one. And then I said, one is enough, and with hope for us all. And then I
Yeah.
put dash my name. And that's what it is, man. I mean, you know, how many times have you been that guy that is kind of, you know, lost in your own, maybe you're just coming up, you know, growing up, and then you hear something by Townes Van Zandt that you're like, whoa, like this song is like for me, like this
Oh
gives
yeah.
me, and you know, and it's a very small niche art, like niche, you know, audience. It's like like 2% of all mankind listen to Townes Van Zandt or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
And so that was, yeah, I like that approach too.
So this album was recorded the same way George Jones recorded his songs during his music core era. I want to talk about that a little bit, man. Was this something that you
Sure.
wanted to try to do live like George, or what all happened?
Yeah. Well, I was very inspired knowing about first of all George Jones. I never really was into George Jones because I didn't really get it. I didn't really have my heart completely destroyed in like the adult arena of living out on your own. And when I did, you know, I was starting to hear George Jones. This has been like years ago now, so
Yeah.
but to hear George Jones sing is like he's really like he's really like just kind of psychotic and crazy, and like he's singing from his heart and you can hear it. It's like whoa, man. And so basically music core era was like 60s George Jones, and that's what they would do. They would go in the studio and they would record it all live, and then they would overdub the fiddle though. And I kind of liked that idea because I had been in studios before with the fiddle player, like when I was playing electric guitar in my buddy's band up in Cleveland, like, and it's everybody's like all the musicians are like going around in a circle and they're like, okay, you take a lead, you know, and they're playing, and then like you take your lead. There's like a little like toe stepping goes on, like people like don't want to step on each other's toes, like, oh, should I do a lead here? Oh, I don't want to play over top of you, you know. So I didn't want that at all in my record. I wanted it to just be me and the pedal steel guitar playing together, and then I wanted to overdub the fiddle so that I could kind of like score the fiddle like a film would be, like for like Final Delivery and Jim Given of Lagrange, like the during the rising action, the fiddle comes in and it's just a little bed, you know,
Okay.
and then it comes up and it rises and then it falls back down. And I was really into that theory, you know. I really like how the whole record turned out that way. So
Does a full length album suit your music better than an EP at this time?
absolutely. I mean, I'm already lost on my own path, and the only way I get anything out of it is if I make a full length album and try to move on like Bob Dylan did or something. That's where I think a lot of the gems come out. You know, a lot of the gems come in the doing of it, not just like the polishing and the simplification of it. I just want to be really prolific and I want to do well. You know.
Austin, was there a track for this album that totally ended up sounding different than what it was intended to?
Yeah. Um. Well, the honestly, the first track, "Till I Reach Downtown," I did not even plan to record that song. I actually planned to record a bunch of other songs, and I wanted the record to. Well, first of all, like I didn't want to make like another honky tonk album. That's what
Yeah.
everybody's doing in Nashville now. They're like writing songs about going to the bar, honky tonk, and oh, I met a pretty thing at the. It's like you know, but like I wanted the first track to be that, but I wanted it to be a good song, and then I wanted after the first track to be like total chaos and mayhem. Like I wanted it to be like very like I didn't want it to be just another country album, even though it is country instrumentation. But the first track I didn't even think was going to be on the record. It was like the second day in the studio. It was like 10:30 a.m. and we were just warming up, and we're just like, all right, well, here's this song I wrote 3 years ago that I didn't record yet, and then we ended up recording it and it ended up sounding great. Then that ended up being the first track of the record. It was kind of surprising to me.
I know these are your babies. I understand it completely, but are there any tracks standing out more to you than any right now on this album?
Yes, the song Jim Given of LaGrange is track 5. It's the last track on the A side. And that song is about my real life family. Jim Given is the name of my grandfather, and I would have changed his name, but I wrote the song for myself, and like Sam Kent or something didn't have another ring, and I showed the song to Ivan McLeod, my roommate, and then Ben was over, and Ben was like, "That's your best song," and it's like a 6-minute ballad, like Weeper long story song. Like it's not going to be on anywhere, probably pop thing, far from it. But
Yeah.
that song is the real life story of my grandfather and how he worked so much that his wife, left him, and that's the ethos of all the dudes where I came from. Like all the dudes in my family are too busy working to really to really figure it out. It's like they have to work because that's who they are. And I guess back in the day it was different. Like you ever seen that movie Coal Miner's Daughter? Like all them dudes worked in the coal mine because that was all they could do to like pay the company store.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of those dudes from that generation, they moved up north to Ohio from West Virginia, and they kept that. And it's just like, I don't know what it was, but I always feel that I am a workaholic. Like I've always had 2 jobs, 3 jobs. I've always been too busy working to really make a music career. And I'm glad that I did that, but I also wanted to tell what it really looked like. And although money can be saved, it often is free. It will separate a man from his family is like the basis of that song. And so that song stands out to me because it's a real account of people I knew, and it's just like the folk song that's like unique to me and my family. And like I honestly thought that people would be kind of mad at me for making the song. And since the record's come out and I've showed my family and Jim Given as well, they're very proud of me, because like nobody knows Northeast Ohioans like in my family. Nobody's even been to Ohio really. Some of these people haven't, and I don't know. I'm very, very proud of that because it's something that's a universal story that I had access to and I told through the lens of the reality of my own life. So, yeah.
Now, you mentioned it earlier that you had a ton of songs that
Hmm.
have not even seen a light of day yet for everybody. But are there any songs that didn't make this album we're going to see on another album, EP, or just maybe singles coming from you that you still have stored back that you want to get out eventually?
Yes, there are. I will probably re-record them. But like I went into this record with a bunch of songs, and I think what it was we were trying to get everything done fast, and some of the songs were recorded in like a 4/4 shuffle, like, and then that might have just been better as just a slow ballad. So
Mhm.
now I'll have that insight when I go in again, and I can reimagine these songs and give them the justice that they should have. And yeah.
Is the track listing placement important for this album or any albums that you put out?
Absolutely. I think it's and I put a lot of thought into the pacing of the record. I wanted it to have a good pace, and I wanted it to end on a cliffhanger. So if you listen to the last track of the record, it ends on a cliffhanger, and I think that's like really cool to me. But yeah, I put a lot of thought into the track listing, and I wanted to put like the big masterpiece Weeper, Jim Given of LaGrange as the last track on the A side. I feel like, and Ivan McLeod told me to do that, and Ivan's a songwriter in Nashville and my old roommate. So we yeah, the track listing, I thought about that a lot, and I really have a lot of fun thinking about it. So
This album was co-produced, like you said, by Benjamin Todd of Lost Dog Street Band. How was working with him, and did he get something out of you, Austin, that maybe somebody else might not have gotten possibly?
yeah, Ben is like the most successful friend of ours. I mean, we're all diehard, just kind of against the grain people making their own music, you know. But Ben is like the most successful of us, and basically, I got to live with Ben for like the past 3 years. Him and Ashley, his wife, would rent out the third room in mine and Ivan McLeod's house. And Ivan McLeod is the original drummer for Lost Dog, and he also is a recording artist for Anticorp Records. So check out his stuff. It's MACLEOD, Ivan McLeod. But working with Ben is we were sitting out back one day, and I was still smoking cigarettes at the time. And Ben's like, I'd like to make an album. He's like, I want to get away from touring, and he's like, I want to get into producing, and he's like, I just want someone to have a record from you that they can put it on and say, okay, this is Austin Stambaugh, and
Yeah.
he said that, and then it kind of like sat with me for like 9 months, and I was like, this is a possibility, and I need to just do this. So then basically I went up to Ben, and Ben's always really, really busy. He lives in Muhlenberg County, Kentucky. And like, so I said, I'm ready to go. And then I just got the ball rolling totally by myself. And I knew that I had Ben's financial backing for it. But Ben, I sent him like 15 songs for like just voice files, on my phone. And Ben just looked at me, and he was really frustrated because he was really busy at the time and in his own head about everything. And it was like a day before we were supposed to record this session. And he looked me in the eyes and he said, I trust you, and like real cold. And then I was just like, then I had this like unbearable weight of like pressure of like, I'm spending Benjamin Todd's money, and like, what am I gonna do? So then I just went in the studio and just did the best I could, and like, I'm really happy that I did that, and I'm really happy that Ben gave me that opportunity. Because yeah, and so that was how the whole process working with Ben. And I'm just really honored that I get to be around all these folks. And Ben just arranged like for me to do a Western AF video. I just recorded that like 3 days ago, and hopefully that'll lead to bigger things. I'd like to support artists out on the road, but if there's one thing I've learned in life is to just sit back, be calm, and do it all by yourself, and stay grateful for it all, and don't, you know what I mean? So all that stuff might happen later, but it don't make no difference to me right now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure, for sure. All right, Austin, this is just strictly about you, man, about Austin Stambaugh's favorite stuff here. So if you could write an album equivalent to your favorite band's album, which album would that be?
That's a really good thing to ask. Man, I would probably do a record that's like the Clash's Sandinista album.
Okay.
I would probably do that because the Clash's Sandinista album is like a triple album of weird experimental dub stuff, and then great songs, and then like some punk songs. I would want to do like a triple album of just crazy experimental music, but then also like short stories woven in. And I would like to just make this giant cloth of just crazy stuff that maybe there'd be a good 10-track album inside of, but it'd just be like a lot of content, you know?
Oh, that'd be
And
awesome.
that's what I would like to do.
What's been your most memorable show that you've been a part of that you still can't believe to this day that you've been a part of it? If you've had that happen to you so far.
I have had that happen to me so far, and it happened way early. It happened like 6 years ago, 5 years ago.
Okay.
I was I was 22. I just turned 22, and I was living in Cleveland, Ohio, and I got the opportunity to open a show for Alejandro Escovedo and Joe Ely, and they're like Texas songwriting legend guys. And I don't know if I'm just dumb or what, but I just like was in the green room with them, and usually the opening artist doesn't hang out in the green room, but I was just allowed to sit back there with them for like 2 hours and just pick songs and just, stay out of the way. And then they asked me on stage for them to go on stage with them, and there are YouTube videos of it. And so I got to play on stage with Alejandro Escovedo and Joe Ely, and No Depression magazine wrote about the show. But that was years before I would actually kind of get my own thing going, But it was just kind of one of those moments that happened really early that kind of freaked me out, But it was cool that they had me get on stage with them, and I got to sing Lonesome Road Blues with them. And yeah, that was like the coolest thing I've probably ever done on stage, I guess.
So when you're in that green room, did you just shut the hell up and be like, look, I need to shut up and see what they're talking about. I need to take this in.
Well, I actually, earlier that day, I had got this strange hunch that I needed to go to the Volunteers of America, which is like a Salvation Army up in Ohio, like Goodwill. For some reason, I was like, I need to go Goodwill hunting right now. And I did, and I found this nudie jacket. It's a black, like, nudie jacket with like the bullfighter looking all, cool stuff. I found that for $2.50. And so I like walked in and I had like this jacket on a hanger, and Alejandro was there, and I asked him, I was like, what do you think I should wear? Like, should I wear this tonight? And or is it too much? Is it too cheesy or gaudy? And then Alejandro looked at me and said, always wear the jacket. And so then I wore the jacket, and so I don't know, like we first started talking about backstage was like, what do we wear? And then we were just all hanging out,
All right, Austin, if you could be a member in an iconic band and play one of their legendary shows, which band would it be and what show would it be possibly?
Man. Oh man, this is kind of wild. For some reason, the only thing I can think about is, and this is totally lame, but I've talked about this with Dan Emery at Anticorp, and that's that we are massive Guns N' Roses fans, like when we were teenagers and 10. But the St. Louis riots, man. Imagine being there in 1991 in St. Louis when everybody's rioting. That'd be probably terrible to be a part of, but put that in there. That probably freak people out. I'll lose all my musical integrity if I start talking about Guns N' Roses. So maybe I should do yeah, I don't know. Yeah, we'll do the St. Louis riots. We'll throw that in there.
Man, there's so many artists and musicians out there who absolutely love Guns N' Roses. And I know they're not everybody's cup of tea. I know Axl has that unique voice, but you know what?
Yeah. I don't listen, but yeah.
Guns N' Roses, man, made that staple and that stamp in music that it's iconic and it's never going to be forgotten. I mean, they have some bangers out there, and if them and Metallica hadn't been battling at that time, I don't think music, especially heavy music, wouldn't be around right now. Honestly, I think it'd be around, but it wouldn't be as prevalent as it is right now.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, folks, you want to get out and pick up Austin Stambaugh. He has released his new album entitled Midwest Supernatural via Anti-Corporate Music. You want to get out and pick this up. So, Austin, my friend, how can folks stay in touch with you buy this new album, all your other stuff that you have out, and everything that comes under the sun in your name, how can he do that, sir?
Well, you can follow me on Instagram and Facebook, and then you can buy both of my records through anticorpmusic.com. And I did a Magnolia session with them a year or two ago, live session, and then this new record, they're selling that in their web store. So just go on anticorporatemusic.com, and that's the way you can find me and a whole bunch of other strange folk artists on a hardcore and punk label in Nashville that are recording country music.
Everybody, please stick around. We got some great stuff coming up, and you only hear these interviews right here on BODS Mayhem Hour. Please get out, check out our Facebook page. It has our podcast link and our YouTube link that you guys and gals definitely want to go out and listen to, and go out and listen to. You definitely want to go out and listen to and subscribe to if you like what I'm doing. And also, please get out and check out Austin Stambaugh. Pick up his new album entitled Midwest Supernatural via Anti-Corporate Music. Give this man a fair shot, because I'm telling you what, folks, this is a great album. And I'm not saying it because he's on here. I'm telling you right now, it's just cold, hard facts. So, Austin, thank you for being on the podcast, and I wish you nothing but the best of luck, my man.
Thank you so much. This has been a great time, and I'm so honored that I get to be on this podcast. And I love that this is like a metal podcast, and I love that we're all a part of it. I'm so excited. Thank you for doing what you do, and thank you again.
You're very welcome, my friend.
You're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.